Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time for your Geek Culture 411. With me as my co-host, as always, is Skip and Tosh. What's up, buddy?
Man, just excited to talk about some news. Quite a few things have happened. Some very interesting things. So we're gonna dig into it, man. You ready to talk about some news?
Well, I hope people are ready for comic book news because that's almost all that there was this week that we're talking about. But it's time for your comic industry news.
That's right. And we're going to start it off with the DC side of the coin. After years of waiting, DC Comics fans finally got a release date for Geoff Johns and Jason Fabok's Batman 3 Jokers. Do you think it's going to be worth the wait, Wes?
Oh man, I've been salivating for this comic book. We've literally been waiting, I think, 4 years for this. This idea that there are three different Jokers in the DC universe was introduced during the end of the New 52. When Batman was on the Mobius chair, he became omnipotent. He became aware of everything in the universe. And the one thing he remembers is, what? There are three Jokers. And when he finally solved that huge crisis, he made it a point of emphasis that he was going to get to the bottom of it. It was brought up again in Rebirth, or DC Comics Rebirth #1. And we knew that this project has been in the works for like 3 years. We've been waiting for a release date. We've been seeing Jason Fabok has been sending out teaser images of this comic book, and we know it's coming. Now, there's some drawbacks because it didn't come out during DC Rebirth. It's now Black Label, so it's apparently not in continuity, because Black Label is Elseworlds and everything. But I don't care. It's Geoff Johns doing the three Joker story. I've been waiting years for it. Is it going to be worth the wait? Hell yeah. Plus, we know the comic is fully finished. There will be no delays this time. Couldn't be more excited.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that makes it easy for me to be invested in it, knowing that it's locked, loaded, and ready to go. Don't have to worry about delays and all of that stuff. Just get the stories and tear right through it. Very interesting concept. I like the fact that I just like the concept of it, and it's going to be cool to see the characteristics of the three different Jokers and how that plays out. We've had different iterations of Jokers over the years. Geoff Johns being very familiar with continuity and older things, I expect him to pull some very interesting tricks out of his hat and make things very relevant as possible, I could say, and at least give us callbacks to different things that we enjoy while still giving us a really interesting story. I enjoy Jason Fabok's art very much. I really, really like it. I feel like he has very good storytelling art, sequential art, and he still balances out well too for like the your splash pages and all of that stuff. So I'm not the biggest fan usually when it comes to these concepts, but if you say you say Geoff Johns and you give me a concept like this, it's really hard for me to pass up. So I'm looking forward to it too.
Yeah, Joker's been very overexposed, especially on Black Label, but I don't care. DC Comics, if you want to charge me $8 for a comic book and make me not feel like I'm getting ripped off or bent over, put Geoff Johns on it, put Jason Fabok, three Jokers. We've been waiting years for it. I don't care that it costs $8. Can't wait for it. All right, Skip. Despite tepid box office projections, Vin Diesel believes Bloodshot is the launching point for a Valiant cinematic universe. The film opened this weekend. Do you see Bloodshot launching a shared movie universe?
I think it can. It's going to be interesting how it's done. And most of the time when you're introducing a character like this, Valiant Comics is not as well known outside of, kind of the comic book circles. So you want to focus on just leaving a strong impression alone. But, these days, with post-credit scenes and, just small Easter eggs, you can leave things in the story that kind of open up to the rest of it. It's a delicate balance, how it's done. And you want to make sure, like I said, you really want to lock in on creating the best story and just leaving a lasting impression so you can even get a franchise going, let alone a whole shared universe. some of the characters are far, far away from each other, but at the same time, I haven't read the Valiant, any of the Valiant crossover events, so I don't even know how those were constructed. Wes, I know Valiant, a certain stint of it was your favorite shared comic book universe. Maybe you can give us more insight on how this could be possible.
Well, it could be possible because it's very connected. All the characters were actually introduced through a character called Exo Manowar. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. This thing is on pace, or it's projected to make $14 million on its opening weekend. Not exactly gangbusters, and that's without taking into consideration all the weird stuff going on right now around the world. So I don't think this is going to be the launching point of a shared cinematic universe. I think they picked the wrong character. Bloodshot is a cool character, great design, but he's definitely not the heart and soul of anything. He's kind of a weird, is he human? Is he not? Does he even have humanity? He's kind of a cold-blooded killer, not exactly the heartbeat of a shared cinematic hero universe. They should have went with Exo Manowar, who's been the flagship actually for Valiant Comics for years now. He would have definitely been the better character to introduce and try to launch a cinematic universe with, because he's a lot more heroic. He actually is somewhat like Iron Man, who was the focal point of another shared cinematic universe that was very successful. Also, Vin Diesel hasn't really had a hit movie outside of Fast and the Furious franchise in like a decade, maybe even longer. So I think they definitely hitched their wagon probably to the wrong actor as well. He does not draw people into the theater, and it definitely is playing out that way with the box office projections. Do I wish this was the start of a shared cinematic universe, so I would finally see Exo Manowar, Ninja K, Shadow Man, all on the big screen together? Absolutely. There's nothing I would want more than that. But I think they botched it here. Sony did not do it right, and I think they're going to be sorely disappointed. And that investment in Valiant is going to be all for naught. It's just not going to happen. Sorry.
Well, there you go, Vin Diesel, Dom. We all know that Fast and the Furious is his actual superhero franchise anyway. Mm-hmm. But speaking of Valiant Comics, they recently announced Heather Antos' promotion to senior editor. Wes, I know you're a huge fan of Valiant Comics. Is this a good sign?
Ooh, it's a good sign I'm not going to be reading Valiant anymore. Like, not that I have been reading Valiant, because actually, Valiant Comics was purchased in 2017 by a group that wanted to get into the comic movie business. It was a capital venture group in China, and one of the first thing they did was they shelled out all the creative voices at Valiant Comics. They replaced them. I believe one of the big one was Joseph Illich, and one of his first big moves was to bring over Heather Antos as a talent coordinator, a talent recruiter, to bring over people from Marvel Comics into Valiant. And ever since that happened, and it basically started with Harbinger Wars 2, and it definitely picked up steam with Livewire, the first series that I believe Antos herself actually edited. Valiant has gone to complete dog crap. It's not even worth reading. It's awful. They brought over the creme de la creme of the worst creators they could get their hands on. Mags Visaggio, Vita Ayala, Cullen Bunn, B. Clay Moore, just the worst of the worst. Now, are there some good writers in there? Yes, Dan Abnett is a good writer. They put him on the wrong character, but Dan Abnett, good writer. Other than that, they brought in Tim Seeley would be the other one that's a big name, and he's about as hit and miss as it gets in the industry. So, at one point, Valiant Comics was the feeding ground, the breeding ground of new talent in the industry. That's where all the best new writers were coming from. That's where Matt Kent came from. That's where Robert Venditti came from. Jeff Lemire had a fantastic run on Bloodshot, and it's gone the exact reverse. That is where all the bare bones, the dead dinosaurs in the industry that can't get work anywhere else, they go to Valiant now, and it shows in the work. It absolutely sucks. Now that Heather Antos is now being a senior editor, it couldn't get any worse. Is it a good sign? It's a good sign that Valiant Comics is probably going to go bankrupt within the next 5 years.
Yeah, that could easily be the case. Those writers that you named don't really bring, a large audience or numbers or anything with them, with the exception of B. Clay Moore and I guess Cullen Bunn. Uh, I mean,
The sales would say otherwise.
well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. They're they're not going to bring them with them. And like
Valiant Comics doesn't have a single comic book selling over 8,000 right now. And before Heather Antos and they had the whole new creative team, they regularly had a couple that were over 10,000. They certainly didn't have multiples under 5,000 like they do now. They have absolutely decimated their sales and basically killed their own audience.
Right, which is so interesting. I don't understand what they saw to get out of it. I mean, literally just bringing over some people from Marvel because of the relationship. I don't know. It's one of those scenarios where I think some a company who doesn't have a lot of experience inside of a specific business, goes to latch onto a person to kind of siphon some people over to something that is more established, not really looking at exactly who they're bringing over and what they're bringing over. And yeah, it could probably ultimately spell doom for something like this, especially if they keep putting so much into the movies. And on the movie side, if the movie doesn't do well and then the comics aren't doing well with the state of the industry and where it's at right now, yeah, it could easily spell doom and gloom. So doesn't sound like it was the best move to make.
I agree. Good point, Skip. Now, Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder debuted the first look at a monster truck Batmobile in their upcoming Dark Knight's death metal event. Being Missouri born and raised, this got my feel spots working for all the right reasons. Did you have a similar reaction to the monster truck Batmobile?
I did not. I was not a fan of the monster truck Batmobile. I wasn't a fan actually of that whole entire scene. I actually enjoy monster trucks. Not far from where I live, they bring a lot of monster truck shows through. I enjoy trucks. I enjoy monster trucks. I enjoy things like that. But I don't know what it was about. I enjoyed the very first preview that Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder put up. I actually liked that one. I was a good representation, even with the chainsaws and all that stuff. I was like, that I felt it. The monster truck felt a little forced to me, and not only that, I also didn't like how much space was left over in like the top of the corner. I know that's where like the heading is supposed to go and everything.
Where the trade rest is going to be.
Right, but like even in the rest of the background, like it's just kind of desolate. Not a lot of other stuff back there to really kind of give it away. I don't really like the position that Wonder Woman was in. This overall was kind of pretty man to me. Now, the concept of the monster truck, I do like the concept of it, and I got a feeling that once we get to the interiors, if that's a theme, what the monster truck ends up doing and the scenes that it's in, I'm probably going to be digging that. But just as like a presentation and it's just there and they're just posing, it kind of felt a little... It felt very Capullo, and I didn't feel as much Snyder in there. But Wes, obviously, you're already pumped about it. So tell us a little bit more about your new love for the Batman.
Man, Debbie Downer over here. I feel like you're the fun police today. This is going to be awesome. I don't even really like Dark Knight's Metal, but I can admit that was a very fun storyline. There was a lot of cool stuff that happens in it. Death metal is going to amp it up about 500 degrees more. It's going to be even more fun. It's going to be even crazier. We got monster truck Batmobiles. We've got, chainsaws of truth coming. I'm hoping that we're going to see a Batman Swamp Thing mashup character. All kinds of crazy stuff going on in death metal. It's going to be a lot of fun. Is the story going to be great? Well, I don't know about that part, but I'm definitely digging a monster truck Batmobile. Are you kidding me? I didn't even know I needed this.
Well, good thing that they created it, because you are going to get it. Now, moving away from one side of DC over to another portion of DC, another one that people are pretty excited about. Trevor Hairsine is joining Tom Taylor for DCeased, Dead Planet, the sequel to their breakout hit DCeased. I thought Unkillables was the sequel to DCeased.
You got a good point there, Skip, because that's what I thought I was buying too. I was like, what the hell do you mean this is DCeased 2 Dead Planet? What the hell is Unkillables in? I understand it's not a direct sequel. Why did you even make it Does it mean anything? This is a total cash grab. What the man? Just DC Comics, man. Every time they're like the Marvel Comics of 2016. They take 2 steps back or take 2 steps forward and like 15 steps backwards. Like, why did you make Unkillables? Why is that not the sequel? Why am I paying for this story that is taking place in times that I've already seen? I'm pretty frustrated about it. There's a reason that the heart and everything that was good in DCeased is completely lacking in Unkillables, because you can tell it was just a cash grab. Tom Taylor just made a story because they made him do it. He obviously didn't ever plan for that to be part of anything. And Trevor Hairsine coming back, DCeased, the only bad thing about it was the art sucked because of Trevor Hairsine. He's the one thing that should have been replaced. I'm very disappointed that he's coming back. I will be a customer, but I am still going to be upset because I feel like I was sold a bill of goods on Unkillables. What the hell?
You're sold a bill of bads. Yeah, that was the understanding when it came out, and everybody was kind of talking about that. How Unkillables was like, okay, it's going on in the same world, if you will, the same universe. This is obviously the sequel. I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I think even some of the solicitations was kind of billing it like that. But as quick as it came out, like actually really as quick as it got announced and then it came out, quite a lot of people was like, okay, they're definitely, and even some of us commented it. I think you and I talked about it. It's like, hey, they know what's working right now. They are going to go ahead and hop back on it. But we did question, is this a cash grab? Is it going to be as good? It's definitely smart business to jump on what's working, but what is the quality of it going to be? And then just to come and find out that, you know what I mean? Now they're saying that this is the sequel, and they're not even saying the sequel to Unkillables, which says something. They're saying it's the sequel to the thing that was the more popular one, that was more successful. So
Unkillables is like the deleted scenes that you don't need to see for the movie to be good.
Out of context. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing between editorial or marketing, but one of them over there is screwing up. And like you said, Trevor Hairsine coming back. That was one of the things about DCeased. Outside of the concept, I'm not the biggest concept of zombies, Marvel zombies, DCeased, this and that. But it was just so action packed, and it had like some really interesting twists and turns in it. How people were getting affected and who was getting infected and how fast it was. It was spreading in DCeased. I was like, wow, this is at least this is like a compelling story, if nothing else. So I got a feeling that this won't be as compelling. This might go out with a whimper. We're gonna see, but if that's the case, then this will be the last that we kind of hear about this DCeased type thing for a while.
Yeah, couldn't be more disappointed. All right, time for the last topic of today. Destroyer of Pluto and self-described comic nerd Neil deGrasse Tyson is weighing in on an age-old debate. When asked which universe, Marvel or DC, is more scientifically sound, he responded, Marvel wins that contest hands down over DC Comics, if for no other reason that almost all minus Thor and maybe one or two others that I've lost track of, everyone with powers in Marvel Comics, those powers are derived from something scientific that happened to them. You buying what Tyson is selling?
Not entirely. I know it's easy to want to get behind it because it's Neil deGrasse Tyson, and then it's even easier to get behind it, because of his popularity. But also, which if you're one of the people that it's like, I'm Marvel over DC, I'm DC over Marvel, but overall, not really. These are stories. How they got their powers. In most cases, as long as the idea, is an interesting enough idea and you execute it well, that's all I care for. Outside of the origins of the characters, to me, it's all about, their character and then what it gets put up against. But what I will give DC the edge for is, at least with their cinematic universe, they have a physicist or two that they actually consult with. And obviously this, this is all fiction anyway, but at least they have something, someone who is knowledgeable about it to kind of pass it through. I guess it's like, how plausible would this be, or at least how close is it?
I call balderdash. I watched Thanos throw a planet at other people and no one died.
Well, that's the fiction part of it. Because if that was the case, then those
physicists need to be fired. They're doing a pretty damn bad job. That is not what that would look like. Two planets colliding. Come on.
It's definitely not. It would have a lot more to go. And that's probably where they tell him, like, he tells them, like, yeah, this is definitely not how that would go down. They'll be like, yeah, that's cool. But what about this part? Like, I don't know. They might even just be paying that guy to say that they got a physicist going on. That's probably more for the scenes when they're in the labs. But overall, Neil deGrasse Tyson, does this sway me either way on whose science is better? Not really. Wes, are you following it?
Who has a briefcase that you hit a button and it'll put a magical suit on you where you can jet power yourself, with your feet all over the world? That's not based in science. That's magic. Just think about the Hulk. Yes, he got hit with gamma radiation and now he can grow to the size of and jump over planets and stuff. There's nothing scientific. Yes, it's based in science, but that's just magic. That's how all their characters are. Same thing with the only one that maybe is close is you could say that Captain America could be analogous to steroids, but I don't think that's exactly what they were going for. So I don't think any of it's based in science. Marvel Comics, you got a whole city floating above New York, where the Inhumans are living. Get out of here with that stuff. Those are the dumbest thing ever. And he forgot to think about the mutants. You really think we're gonna have people popping blades out of their hands? This was silly. He should have just said. He should have abstained because he kind of made himself look stupid. Nothing about Marvel Comics heroes are based in science. Okay, I'll take that back. There's probably 3 or 4 of them I'm going to get roasted the shit out of in the comments, and that's fine. But a vast majority of everything about Marvel Comics heroes is based in magic and silly science. None of it's actually based in science. Just my thoughts.
It's true. And that's my thing. Like, when we have to suspend disbelief, just make the idea good and execute the idea well. Like, when people try to get too close to, the science and all that stuff, I'm just like, this is not going on. And the chances of this happening anytime soon are way far off. And it's not even that practical. And even when the technology gets cheaper, how many people are going to be flying around in suits and doing this and doing that? This is a fantastical world. Just make the idea is good, but as far as the science and everything, I don't know. Just make it sound smart, and don't be dumb when you make it sound smart.
I guess technically you could have a Punisher or Daredevil, like in the real world. That would go bad though.
Yeah, I don't know. How many times did they get shot and stabbed? What's the science on losing that much blood? Anyway.
All right. I think that's going to wrap it up this week, Skip. Thank you so much for joining me right here on geek-span. I had a lot of fun talking about comic books. Got into the Bloodshot debate as well. Is there anything you need to say before we let these people go?
No, thank you guys so much for tuning in like always. Make sure you guys, if you want to jump in and watch us do it live, Twitch .tv/thinking_critical_YT. We have a great group that's on there right now chatting with us in the chat and watching us. And then if you want to continue the conversation, we have our Discord, which that link will be below. Tons of new people coming in, awesome conversations happening about different comics and sharing panels and stuff like that. We're just trying to grow the community and enjoy comics. So come and join us.
We're doing it live, people. We're doing it live.